Hello, my name is Dana Abbott, and welcome to a signature series tutorial by Century Martial Arts. This tutorial is about tatami mats. We will offer you good suggestions, give you lots of tips on how to roll and cure your tatami mat. Century Martial Arts does carry tatami mats. That is SKU number 12354. Through the Century Martial Arts catalog online or talk to one of their associates, just give them that SKU number and they can go right to it. After you have received your tatami mats from Century Martial Arts, I want you to open up the box and look at them. Now they're rolled already. They're rolled and they have one string on it. This works pretty well, but it just doesn't offer the correct resistance I like to see. So let's take this and re-roll it in a fashion where you can use the cuts to your advantage. For example, this one string here, I want you to just take a pair of scissors or a knife and I just want you to cut it off. Then, as you can see, it's rolled from one end all the way out to the other end. Most tatami mats that are used in Japan have been on a floor for 4 or 5 years, and they're a little rougher to cut, and they're a lot heavier because of the dirt and that type of thing. These here, in particular, are seconds. So say you go to a tatami manufacturing company and they don't make perfect ones 100% of the time. There's always one that's a little thinner, one that has maybe a piece that they didn't get correctly. Sort of like seconds you'd buy at a store if it were clothing. Well, same thing with tatami mats. So what I'd like you to do is open this up and see that you have a brand new tatami mat that is a second, and aesthetically it's not nice enough to put on the ground to live with as a carpet, but it's great for test cutting. So what I'd like to do now is show you the best way. Now there are lots of ways to roll this, but at this time, this will prove to be the best way for you to roll and then cure a tatami mat. First of all, I want you to take this and just roll it way out in front. And you can see that you have about 6 feet right here. What I want to do next is take this, and instead of rolling it from one end to another, we don't do that. What we're going to do is we're going to fold it in half and bring it all the way up almost to the other end. So you can see the ends here. I want you to look here and see that this is probably about a hand's distance away from the other edge. What's going to happen is the minute I start rolling this mat, this bottom edge will just start scooting closer to the other. So if I was just going to put one right on the other, you're going to have a mat that looks like it's inside out. What happens then is if you don't make a correct cut, little pieces of this mat aren't going to cut thoroughly and your cut won't be perfect. So let's bring this back to about maybe 5 or 6 inches. Make sure there's no high parts or anything like that. Now what I want you to do is look at the end here. I want you to take this and just smash it down or sort of iron it out with your hands. Then I'd like you to take about an inch or inch and a half and just fold it and then push it down again like that. And then again and again. And then all of a sudden you're going to start seeing little ripples like this come up. That's fine, that's what's going to happen. And then after about the 3rd turn, you'll find out that you can just roll up the mat fairly easy. Just like this. So now what we have is, we have a dry mat. And the dry mat is rolled from the center, offering you a little bit more space in the middle so you can easily take the tatami mat when it's wet and put it right down on that dowel when it's on the stand. Lots of people think, well, why don't I just get some dowels and roll the dowels inside with the tatami mat? That works well until you soak the mat. What happens is the mat fills with water and it becomes waterlogged. So do the dowels. And what happens is that this dowel expands and you can't put the dowels back into the hole of the post on the tatami cutting stand. So I want you to take those into consideration. I don't want you to spend a lot of time doing something unique to find out that water plays a very important part on tatami mats. Another thing I'd like you to understand about tatami mats, why do we even soak them? Why can't we just take a tatami mat, roll it like this, put it on the thing, on the stand and cut it? Well, there's no weight behind a tatami mat. So if you soak it for 12 or 24 hours, later it gives it that weight like a human body. So when you start cutting through it, it will stand there and it will take the abuse, and you can actually make nice cuts that feel like you are cutting through body parts. And that's what we're talking about. This tatami mat here, and if we put a small piece of bamboo inside or a wooden dowel, it'd be the same consistency as someone's neck. What I'd also like you to understand is if you try to cut a tatami mat without putting water, you're just going to hit it and it will fly across the room. It might make a little cut in it, but there's, as I said, there's no weight to give you that resistance. What we do next is we're going to start using rubber bands. We're going to put probably 5 on this. That's your standard rule. A long time ago, we used to take twine and wrap it around it twice and tie it. That was a lot more difficult, but rubber bands make it easy here in the United States. The rubber bands that we use are usually a size 64. You can get them at any Office Depot or anything like that. You just grab one out of a bag, you take it, and you bring it down like that and put it in the center. Now, you can see that it's not really tight, but after you put water on this and it becomes waterlogged, it will expand a little bit, and voila, you have a nice fitting rubber band. So let me take this and I'm going to put some more on it. Make sure that it's opened up a little farther, because if you rub the rubber band against the edge, you might get extra rice stalks that, you get pulled out of place. So there's those 3, and then we finish here with another couple. There's that one, and this one. Now, this is a great tatami mat. It's ready to go. All we need to do is we need to soak it for about 12 hours. Now, how do you soak these mats? It's not difficult. You just put them in water and let them stay. If they all float too. So if you let it float, later, in a few hours later, just turn it over and let it float that way. If you want to get the mats waterlogged faster, take a heavy object, and just put on top of it to weight it down so it stays submerged underneath the water. Now, what can you use? Well, this is about 40 inches in length. So trying to find something that's 40 inches in length, that's about this high, 40 inches by how wide you want it, fill it up with a little water and put those in. A bathtub works great. Don't leave it in over 24 hours because it'll start smelling like baby diaper then, especially the older tatami mats. These new ones like we have here, they won't smell as bad, but I wouldn't leave them in more than 24 hours. That is a very important tip. You'll get yelled at. We have a full mat here, but a lot of times when you first start cutting, you find out this is expensive. I can't spend a lot of time on this, because you try to figure, I spend this much money on a tatami mat, I want to get 20 cuts out of it. And then all of a sudden you make a cut, it doesn't cut right. You try to do this, you try to do that, and then the whole mat looks like you just came at it with a buzzsaw. And you're going, man, this is so expensive. Well, remember, you must need a plan and focus. And sometimes a bigger mat is too hard to work with the first few times you cut. Therefore, we take a tatami mat like this and we cut it in half. So now let me demonstrate how to cut this. Moreover, cutting a tatami mat in half gives you twice as much cutting now. So when I take this and roll it out, I roll it out like that. I bring it on over, bring it up, mesh it up like this. And these are very easy to cut. You can use a pair of scissors, you can use a knife, just like this. See how easy it is to cut? Or with a pair of scissors, if I can find it. There it is. Of course, when you cut these mats, you're going to see a lot of remnants floating around, but hey, that's how it goes. So now I'm going to split these two mats up and I'm going to put that mat there. I'm going to take this mat and I'm going to do the same thing I did with the last one. I'm going to bring it to the edge, but look at the edges here. They're pretty much frayed. You can take the frayed and you can pull it off. A lot of times that works. Or just turn it around and use the worst end in the middle and the better end towards the edge. So I'm going to bring this up, bring it in a few inches like I did before with the larger mat. Press, fold, press, fold, press. And now I have a half mat. Now with a half mat, you'll probably want to use the same rubber bands, but this time I want you to double it. Just like that. Bring it in here and double it. And of course you need 5 rubber bands again. But for right now, I'm just going to put 3 on to give it its feeling here. So what happens now is, say we have 5 rubber bands on this, and it's ready to go. So again, you soak it in the water for some time, and then after you've soaked it into the water, probably take about 8 to 12 hours for these because they're just half the size. What the cool thing about this is it's about the size of your wrist or an arm. So now, if you have a short sword like a wakizashi, or you have a traditional Japanese katana, for example, not one of the big cutting swords, but more of the traditional classical size, you can cut these and these really, really easy. The nicest thing about this is, just imagine if you have a wakizashi and you want to start cutting different angles on it, it should be pretty easy to do. Now the next thing we do is, we soak the mats. After we soak the mats, we do test cutting.